anytime you get the chance to play it, it's just a chef's kiss of perfection. I'm here for it. This is the redirect spell called Chef's Kiss. That was the joke.
Is it actually Chef's Kiss? Oh, sweet. I was like, I'm waiting.
That was the joke, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, good people of the internet. Welcome to another episode of the MTG Thoughtcast. Today, we are talking about the most underrated red cards that you could possibly be playing in your commander decks, and ones that you should be playing way more often. I'm Joseph. I'm one of your hosts here at the MTG Thoughtcast, and across the screen or somewhere across your ears is my brother, John Kendall. John, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm on top of the command tower, tapping it for red.
Yes, you are. We are seeing red today, but not in an angry way. We're just seeing some sweet, sweet red cards, and I can't wait to talk about that. For the first time, we need to give a shout out to today's sponsor, and that is Heavy Play. If you're looking for some new gaming accessories that are highly innovative, look no further than Heavy Play. They're using what they call the Equip Mag system, which is this magnetic modular system between all of their products that just locks everything into place. So there's no more spilling dice boxes all over the table. You can just get up with one hand. You can get up and move everything to your next match. It's super easy. Their curved sleeves are awesome because they just feel like playing with a regular playing card. Cannot shout them out enough. For today's episode, if you want to get 10% off of your first order, you can use code MTG Thoughtcast at checkout or go to heavyplay.com/MTG Thoughtcast. Again, that is MTG Thoughtcast at checkout or heavyplay.com/MTG Thoughtcast for 10% off of your order. Shout out to Heavy Play.
Thank you so much. Seriously, I can't believe we're here at a point where we get to do a sponsor read.
Yeah, genuinely excellent partners. Can't wait to continue working with them. If you want to know about all of the things that we've got going on, like sponsorships, 10% off, other things like that, our giveaways, things like that, you can join our Discord linked down below. It's totally free. It's just right there. You can play some Commander games with us, get some deck building advice, maybe find out about some more underrated cards as we're going through the series here. That's all linked down below. Join our Discord. While you're down there, if you want to support the channel for totally free, click all the YouTube buttons. It's likes, comments, subscribes, help us out a ton. I love reading and responding to all of the comments. So give me some stuff to do and some free time. That's all of
as if he doesn't do enough. He doesn't do enough already, anyways. You know.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. John, we're both wearing red T-shirts today. Do you want to tell the good people about today's episode?
Woo! It's mono red burninating the countryside.
Yeah.
No, man. We are continuing on with our underrated cards series. We're going through the colors, and then eventually here in the next little while, the color combinations. And we're showcasing to you some of our favorite and most iconic, like underrated picks, and just fun little tidbitty cards that you could be playing in maybe either some specific strategies or general purpose red, but like. We're here at the go fast color, the aggro color, the burn colors, and I know I don't have to ask you twice on what your feeling on red is. I know you are a red mage.
You know that red is special to me. Red holds a very special place in my heart. I love playing red. I played burn in many a standard. I played it in modern. I played it in legacy. I play a mono red commander deck. I play red in many of my commander decks. So I am, of the 5 kind of monocolored card series that we're going through, red is probably the one I was the most excited about. So I'm super stoked to dive in and talk about some really underrated cards for your red commander deck.
Red is so interesting because just like when you think about it in like some of like the biggest main strategies that red is most commonly known for, they are some tough subjects to talk about when it comes to like commander. Like let's take burn just pretty much as an example. You can't really do just direct burn without extra support in commander because that's not only 2 other players but double the life. that you got to be
Yeah.
working towards. So outside of like other like effect pieces that help you hit damage to everybody or hit your damage harder, burn is a really, really tough meta to build around.
Oh,
But
it
then
certainly is.
but then also on that other end of it as well, what better color for like artifact support, right?
Oh my God.
Red and blue are some of the most iconic things, and especially like in this commander era of treasures as well. I feel like more than any other color, treasures has the heaviest support in red.
Yeah, definitely. Red and black for sure, but red just dominates as far as treasure making. Before we talk about some of our underrated cards, I was curious if you have any sort of heuristics with building a red deck. Like if there's any like, I'm building a red deck, so I have to put this in it. Any like staples of yours?
Specifically for red, I mean, I don't really know. I mean, like as of late, I've actually been a really big enjoyer of like the rituals, the sort of things
Ooh,
that like
yeah.
they grant you that immediate boost to your mana, like in a similar vein to dark rituals and stuff like that. Red has a lot of those also, just like impulse ritual kind of things. And like I've got some of those built into some of the spell slingery decks, and like my popper build, my Alexios uses as many rituals as possible to get him
Yeah.
down as quick as possible. But like I do like some of those, like especially some of those ones like Desperate Ritual and Seething Song, and gosh, even like Mana Geyser, even as slow as that card is, Mana Geyser, I
I
still
love
feel
Mana Geyser.
I still play that card a lot, honestly.
Definitely. I think the best red card that you could possibly be playing is obviously Jessica's Will. Do you play it in any decks?
I have a couple copies floating around. I think at least one. I know that for sure, but not a ton of others. Most obviously nowadays because it's considered a game changers card, but also it's been kind of more pricey, and it just does so much on one card. It's I get it when I can, but I don't have as many copies of it as I'd like.
Yeah. I think for me, the only things I really like have to include, just on like a spiritual level, but also on a functionality level, I just have to put a lightning bolt in.
Bolt.
Lightning bolt's the perfect red card, so I feel like is you can just bolt birds. There's so many birds and elvish mystics and things like that in Commander that I really am playing bolt in most of my red decks these days. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk
No.
about the underrated cards that you should be playing in your red decks. Do you want to take us away
Yeah.
with your first pick here, John?
Okay, let's dive right into it. So, one of the coolest things that Reddit has access to do is it's sort of like, I mean, you're a purveyor of this as well. You love a good make your opponents make choices cards. Reds,
Cool, baby.
we had our deck tech things that we did not too terribly long ago with Final Fantasy. You went over that stupidly fun little like mono red mini games, play a whole bunch of mind games, villainous choice, make your opponents suffer down their choices.
Yes, sir.
A really, really fun one that I have played in a couple different decks before, just because like it makes a fun choice scenario for your opponents, is this fun card from the original Commander Legends set, Explosion of Riches.
Ooh, I don't think I've ever heard of this.
All right, check this out. 5 and a red for a sorcery. Draw a card. Then each other player may draw a card. When a card is drawn this way, Explosion of Riches deals 5 damage to target opponent chosen at random from among your opponents.
Oh, so it does that a max of 4 times?
It can, because you always, like, it always gives you the card. You always draw the card, and it'll deal 5 damage to an opponent at random if nobody else decides to play along. But if anybody else decides they want to take a card alongside this one as well, this is going to be increasing 5 more damage that can be, like, each one is assigned randomly as well. So let's say you're in a 4-player game, and all 4 players decide to want to go ahead and take a card. Explosion of Riches is now going to be sending out 20 damage divided in increments of 5 between your opponents chosen at random.
That's awesome. This is Tempt with explosions.
Tempt with explosions. So you could get unlucky, I suppose, and have each player take 5, or somebody else could get extremely
One
unlucky.
really unlucky lightning rod could just take 20
to
damage.
dome. 20 to dome.
Yeah.
One person could potentially take.
Well, and I love that because at 6 mana, I draw a card, anybody else may draw a card, is not playable. But
No.
the politics of that, of like, oh my God, this person's at 15 life, I'm going to draw the card just to see if they take another 5. I'm
Right.
doing that every time.
This was a big hitter for me. I played for a little while. I had a mono red, sort of like a chaosy cascade type of deck. And so this was a really, really fun card at that higher mana value that just continued to cascade down into some lower cost things to help flush out the build. And then this goes off and draws a bunch of cards and deals extra damage. I don't play mono red chaos anymore, but like, man, like Atali, Cascade, explosion of riches, possibility storm, all that shenanigans. This is a fun chaosy card to just kind of juice up what's going on in the game into the late game. Yes, as you said, 6 mana to draw 1 card is not great, but this is at its floor is 6 mana, 5 damage to an opponent and a card. Like, that's fine, but not crazy good. Like what you said is the politics game of getting some other players to play along with you, but you never know. Are they going to be the ones taking 5 damage back? And by the way, what a stupid spell to make copies of, by the way. Like, if you got something to make a copy of this, or you're like doing like something allows you to make a cascade copy of this every turn. You've got to imprint it to something, and it's letting you rebound or copy it or again over and over. This one's really, really silly.
Dude, yes. I feel like this is particularly good too if you're playing something like Chandra's Incinerator, which is it's got some cost reduction. It's a 6 mana 6/6 with trample, and then when a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, the Incinerator deals that much damage to a creature or planeswalker that player controls. So if you're already in this like red, I'm dealing non-combat damage stuff, and you're playing like Chandra's Incinerator and things like that, man, you are just gonna smear some creatures on the board.
Oh, how about with the new Niv Mizzet Visionary? Right? This is draw a card and then guarantee 5 and draw 5 more. And then if anybody
this is
else
draw 6.
and then if anybody else plays along, that's 5 more cards for you.
100%. Well, nobody else is playing along at that point, but that's almost a feature, not a bug. Exactly. Like, you've done 6 mana, I've refilled my hand, and nobody else has gotten to draw cards off of it. Dude, that's awesome. I love that. I'll kind of keep us in that chaos vein and bring up my first one, which is Guff Rewrites History.
Yes,
so this
sir.
is 2 and a red. This was from the Commander Masters precon, the Planeswalker
Party.
precon.
Planeswalker Party.
I think there's not a ton of these that got circulated around because these were very disliked Commander precons. So the new cards that came in those, I would say overall are still very underrated. But Guffy Red's History is sort of like a chaos warp for the entire table. So it's 2 and a red for an instant, and it's got a novel of text on it. For each player, choose target non-enchantment, non-land permanent that player controls. Those permanents' owners shuffle them into their libraries. Each player who controlled one of those permanents exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order. Each player may cast the non-land card they exiled without paying its mana cost. So it functions kind of similar to a Chaos Warp in that, like, you can get rid of a permanent that is a non-land, non-enchantment, because they've decided that red can't deal with enchantments. Chaos Warp apparently was a mistake. So you just like snag something. It cycles into whatever the next non-land card that they would play is. So obviously you want to play this on your opponent's best things to try and reduce how good that thing is down to their next non-land card, which sometimes is just an arcane signet. Like, that's awesome. That's a really great day. What I love about this is that you can polymorph your worst thing into hopefully something better. So I've started playing this card in my Rocco Street Chef deck, which I've been completely obsessed with lately. Not only for the fact that you can just target one of the food that he makes as your like non-land, non-enchantment and just turn a random food into like a creature or a planeswalker or something really good. It also, in that deck specifically, it's 4 cast from exile triggers, which will make 4 more food and put 4 counters across your creatures. So it's particularly good there. But as I've started to play it more, I really want to start playing it in more decks because, man, that effect of just like chaos warping the entire table and getting like your best thing, your best thing, your best thing, and my worst thing, and turning those and trying to flip how the board presence is turned out in the game. So I've been a huge fan of this one lately.
I do like with this as well, like one of the biggest downsides that Chaos Warp has always had as well is because it just shuffles and flips your top card. 9 times out of 10, that usually does result in flipping into a land. So Chaos Warping your own thing is usually not that good of a play. But you get a card like this that, like you said, you turn a treasure into guarantee at least a non-land card. Could that non-land card still be something like a mana dork or a piece of ramp? Yeah, that still can happen, but it's at least not a land. That's one of my things that I don't like the most about Chaos Warp is like you don't get much of an opportunity to help yourself on a card like this as well. And then the fact as well that this is an instant speed as well. So like you can be doing this in weird kind of ways. I think we talked about this, I believe, when we originally covered this card all that while ago, but like you do a card like this at combat time where like you have an opponent attacking you with creatures, let's say maybe like 2 of them, and you put a couple of your blockers in front of it, then your thing that was about to die, you get to Chaos Warp it into something better, and then another attacker that either maybe has gone unblocked or just got like a combat trick thrown onto it as well, that thing now gets to go away as well, and then also your 2 other opponents get something messed up on their board as well. So like you get some really weird, tricky timing that you can do with this to really
100%.
screw over somebody's plans.
Yeah, it's like it's the best version of a chaos card where like it is chaos because it's flipping into something random for everybody, but like I said, being able to choose what you're flipping for somebody, like even things like Warp World or you know those like chaosy cards, I'm not a fan of because it's just so random. Get out of here! No, get your Scramble verses away. This, you get to kind of pick and choose what is being chaos and what's being flipped. So like I said, choosing your opponent's best things and your worst thing to me is always going to be the best option. I did run into a situation with this recently. Everybody has to have a permanent. Like it's sort of like Decimate, where like you have to be able to choose a target for each player. It's not up to one target for each player. So I actually ran into a scenario where I wanted to cast this and could not because one of the players at the table didn't have a non-land, non-enchantment permanent. So just something to keep a note of.
But I guess, you know, if you're in a scenario where an opponent controls no permanents, you're probably, or at least no targetable permanents anyway, you're probably doing fine.
Things are okay.
Yeah, you're probably doing fine. I guess this is kind of weird maybe against the Enchantress player, but then again, you're putting red into against an Enchantress deck. You probably weren't winning that game anyways.
No. That Sithis is going to gain way too much life.
But what if you need an aggressive creature to start getting in against the Sithis player? You want to make sure you've got the boy who's going to be able to start suiting him up with every amount of sword and battle mace and axe or armor, whatever. What's one of the coolest things that red is able to do is one of its creature types and abilities that it is able to do is equipment strategies, aggro, combat. And y'all know me, I'm a very big fan of like the Sir Gwen aggro equipments thing. Obviously, also I played Alexios as well. He's also a very fun equipments friend. My favorite mono red equipment holder is ironically enough the 2018 World Champion card that came from the original Throne of Eldraine. This is Fervent Champion.
Goodness, what a guy.
A single red mana for a 1/1 human knight with first strike, haste. When it attacks, another target attacking knight you control gets 1/0 until end of turn. Not really the most relevant part on this card. The most relevant thing that this does is that equip abilities you activate that target Fervent Champion cost 3 less to activate.
No, dumb.
3!
And it doesn't have that clause of it can't reduce it below 1. So this can just make equips free.
How many of the strongest equipments that we play, both in just like staples or sometimes even like specific equipments, how many of them have like a cost or especially an equip cost that float in that range of 3 to 4?
All of them.
You know what I mean? Right off the dome. Let's go. Swiftfoot Boots, Lightning Greaves, Sword of the Animist.
3?
You know what I mean? 2. 2 to equip. Sword Ofs. Name all the Sword Ofs.
2.
Every single one of those have an equip cost of 3.
Buster Sword.
Buster Sword.
No, they cost 3 and equip for 2.
Well, still, same difference. Is that
still is 0 on the Fervent Champion.
Mm-hmm. I mean, is this too unlike any of those other cards that say like you get reduced equip cost, or things in like white? There's like Sigarda's Aid that like auto attaches a thing over. Yeah, it's very similar to that as well. But the fact that you can get this friend down with haste and just slap everything over that you have to him is just incredible. You could be at an empty board with just all your equipments down, and then this guy comes down for a cheap mana, just a single mana to get going. Naturally having haste and first strike as well. People criminally underestimate first strike when it comes to combat damage, right?
Yeah.
Because one of the biggest issues when it comes to playing Commander is that creatures on the ground will get gummed up against each other unless you've got the trample or other form of evasion to start getting those things through, and your opponents will always see that combat damage coming. First strike is another one of those things that helps you just clear the way. You may not always necessarily get through for combat damage, but you either are putting your opponents in a tough scenario where they're just going to go ahead and take that damage because they know the creature that they would block with would die, and sometimes die irrelevantly, right? First strike is so good against things that have lifelink or death touch or any of that kind of stuff, you know? So,
well, dude, speaking of death touch and lifelink, throw a basilisk collar on this.
tell you what.
Oh my
seriously.
god, first strike, haste, death touch, lifelink. Ridiculous. And then you just start like the best equipment give extra keyword abilities as well as stat boosts. So like if you have just a basilisk collar down, this becomes a 1/1 with, like I said, first strike, haste, lifelink, first strike, haste, lifelink, death touch, which is just the abyss. It's just, I'm attacking you and I'm either going to get in or destroy one of your creatures. God forbid if you have like an Ember Cleave or a Leyline Axe or something that's going to give this like double strike and trample as well. The combination of first strike, trample, death touch should be studied. If anyone doesn't know how death touch and trample works, this is a great time to talk about it. Ironically, in the Red episode. So death touch is worded that all that you need to do is deal 1 damage to a creature to assign lethal damage. That is how it's worded. Trample is worded any damage above lethal goes to the player as well. So the combination of death touch and trample is so powerful because all you need to do is assign 1 of the damage that's being dealt to the creature and the rest goes to face. So if you have a 7/7 with death touch and trample because you've put all of your equipment on it, and somebody blocks with their 20/20 or whatever, all you need to do is assign 1 of that damage to the 20/20. It will kill it, and then the other 6 of your power goes to the player. It is unreasonable how powerful that is. Because it's essentially my creature is practically unblocked, and anything that you block will die with 1 damage. Crazy.
It's really good. And then, by the way, outside of the like really reducing it down to 0 to basically free equip with this card as well, by the way, this is just a static. It reduces the equip abilities that target it by 3. So let's talk about the equipments that have equip costs that are above a natural cost of 3. Think like Helm of the Host is normally an equip of 5. That's now reduced down to target onto this thing. I don't know if you would want to equip this with a Helm of the Host. That was just one as an example. How about maybe something like Colossus Hammer? Colossus Hammer is an 8 cost to equip. If you can target that over to the Fervent Champion, you've now reduced that by 3. Is that still like, I mean, that helps. That helps significantly. And then, like I said, just the fact that this thing comes down incredibly cheap, you can just send its equipment over to itself without using your mana as resources. That leaves you up your mana to act as like protection for this guy, because that's one of the other biggest problems when it comes to Voltron style things is you suit up one guy with a whole bunch of your biggest things, and if you don't leave the resources back to protect it, like outside of what your equipment is able to do, you can still get blown out on those kind of things. So really, really cheap, equips everything to itself, leaves you up your resources to keep himself safe. What an all-star of a card. I used to be much lower on this, but even outside of the fact that he has that ability that targets another attacking knight, just incredible. If you were playing relevant equipment in any capacity, give Fervent Champion a try. You would be surprised how often he'll be able to not only stick around on the battlefield the entirety of the game, but be one of your best combat creatures throughout the course of that game.
Yeah, haste makes this really good in the late game as well. Obviously, it's super good on turn 1 because you just get an attack in. But like late game, you just play it, and like you said, it just magnets all of the equipment on your field onto it, and then you just immediately get to attack with it. And if you don't have first strike on any of those equipment, it just naturally has it anyway. So what a great pick, man! That's so good. I'll kind of keep us in the artifact range, and let's say you're playing against this deck, and you want to be nuking a bunch of artifacts in red. Do you know that red has a Reclamation Sage type effect?
Like on a creature. Do you mean? Sort of?
Okay. So this is Release the Gremlins.
Ooh.
This is XX and a red for a sorcery that's just destroy X target artifacts and create X 2/2 red gremlin creature tokens. So
interesting.
For 3 mana, so that's X equals 1. So that's 1 generic, and a red. You get a 2/2 that enters and destroys an artifact. For another 2 mana, you get another 2/2. So you have 2 2/2s, and you get to destroy 2 artifacts. So what I love about this card is, like I said, in any deck that you're looking to play Reclamation Sage, and I'm looking at you, commenters. I know that Reclamation Sage destroys enchantments as well, and this only gets artifacts. Don't come after me. This comes in at the same time that a Reclamation Sage would to nuke a Soul Ring or something. And then later in the game, when you have like 5 or 7 mana, and you're like, oh my god, I'm staring down a defense grid and an ensnaring bridge and all of these things that I just need to get rid of off of the field, like a Bolus's Citadel or something like that. You can just like, hey, I'm going to pay 7 mana into this. I'm going to make 3 2/2 gremlins, and they're each going to eat an artifact on the field. So this is just one of those like utility pieces in red. There's not a ton more to talk about with it, but like, man, as far as just your vegetables in your deck, like you need to have targeted interaction. You need to be able to get rid of artifacts. And specifically something like this that leaves a body behind. It's why Reclamation Sage is so good, is because it's a 3 mana 2/2 that you can then chump block with, or you can throw equipment onto it, or whatever you want to do. Sacrifice it later to something. This kind of fills that same purpose if you're playing in a deck that doesn't have green or doesn't have white. Like this is really, really good in like a red-black deck, because black doesn't get access to destroy artifacts. Red does. So you're playing this, you can make a bunch of tokens, and then black obviously has like sacrifice effects, so you can get rid of those tokens later for more value. This is just value on value on value.
It reminds me sort of in that similar headspace to Martial Coup, where you were just paying like a X amount of mana into the spell itself, and it does a big relevant thing and leaves you bodies behind as well.
For sure.
Not obviously apples to apples here, obviously, because like this is only like, this is a double X kind of thing, but making 2/2s off of that as well. That's really sick.
And I don't think there's any gremlin support, but if you if you're looking for gremlins, you could be playing Release the Gremlins.
There was that one like Heroes of the Realm Planeswalker Chandra that cared about gremlins, I think, but nobody's allowed to play that anyway. So
I think didn't Duskmourn have some gremlin support as well?
Yeah, there was some gremlins in there. Yeah, there was. I think there was like a gremlin that gave other gremlins 1/0, I think.
There's maybe a Timur gremlin legend as well from like Kaladesh, something like that.
March of the Machine, and it cared about your differently named artifact tokens.
Cool. This doesn't do that. So
I guess I'll piggyback on you for artifact destruction, and outside of the realm of talking about a sort of red Reclamation Sage, how about a Freecast artifact destruction?
Ooh, I'm in.
We love these. What's some of the most powerful spells that you can play in Commander is the things that you're able to cast for free and catch somebody off guard when they think, like, that's one of the coolest political things about Commander is like when you think somebody is down on their mana and then surprise, they've got a surprise interaction for you that you didn't even expect, or against somebody else. You can really play the politics game of like somebody thinks that they're clear on the go, but then, oh, I've got a response because I've got a free spell. I've got an all-time classic, originally from Nemesis, Mog Salvage.
Okay.
2 and a red for an instant. If an opponent controls an island and you control a mountain, you can cast this spell without paying its mana cost, and it destroys target artifact.
Yo, this is dope.
Yo, dude, tell you what. So, check out the wording on this here, by the way. It says, if an opponent. So the artifact that you are going to destroy, you do not necessarily have to be targeting the person who controls that island. All you have to have is yourself controlling a mountain. So obviously you have to have a land. But because of the way how this is
specifically as well.
a mountain, yes, obviously. But the way this is worded is because you get to cast this spell potentially for free if those two conditions at that upper part are met. So your mountain doesn't even have to be untapped or tapped. So like if you've done a turn 1 like Evolving Wilds or something like that, and your mountain is tapped, and then your opponent has gone Island Soul Ring, I'll end step, nuke your Soul Ring.
Yes, dude, this is also like, man, piggybacking off of this, just straight into like play more basic lands. Like, especially in red, there's so much benefit to playing basic lands like stuff like this, or playing a Price of Progress to just end the game, or Blood Moon, things like that, that like you should just be playing more basic lands because you get to play things like this. If you're playing a deck that only has one mountain in it, this is awful. But like, if you're playing a bunch of basic mountains, either in mono red or a 2-color deck or whatever, like, man, cards like this become insanely good. Because like you said, you can just tap out for your commander. Someone feels like they're safe to play their Bolus' Citadel. And then you're like, by the way, nuke it.
Yep.
Actually, I'm going to nuke it. Or
like I said, super early game as well. Like if you've gone a mountain and at least one of your opponents has gone island and somebody is banking on their early 1-drop, 2-drop artifact to get them going on the mana acceleration, way to absolutely turn somebody down like 2 turns behind by blowing up the first thing that they cast.
Yeah, no joke.
You know what I mean? Ooh, get an artifact land on this as well. Like I know some of those monocolored ones are indestructible, but I know there are some artifact ones that aren't indestructible.
The 2-color ones are indestructible. The monocolored ones are not. And I did actually have somebody blow up one of my artifact lands the other day, and it was devastating. So certainly be playing that more often. You can kind of get around your I don't play land destruction if somebody's playing the artifact lands.
All I'm just saying is like just one of the things I like the most about this kind of card is that like it is obviously in scenarios, it is quite powerful. But when you think of like, because how many of the free cast spells are on the now established Game Changers list? You know what I mean? Those are ones that just like dynamically change the game. This is a kind of more, you get to play this more at sort of casual table levels where you could still end up in some really like feel bad scenarios against an opponent, but play removal. That is the purpose of cards like these here, is like games have to have interaction. You can't just sit there and play bomb after bomb after bomb and then feel sad that all of your stuff either didn't get through or somebody else comboed. Gameplay needs interaction. Yes. And something like this to really catch somebody off guard can be the balancing scale that gets that game pushed in your favor more.
Yeah. And even like back to Mog Salvage specifically, it's not even bad if you can't play it for free. 3 mana to destroy an artifact is not horrible.
That is Reclamation Sage. It's kind of. Again, doesn't get enchantments. I see you out there.
Yeah, like it's instant speed as well. So you're able to just hold it up. If you've got 3 mana up, you've got your lightning bolts, your whatever. Obviously, if you can play this for free, this becomes really, really worth it. But if you can't, it's fine. 3 mana, nuke the best artifact on the board, totally fine.
Gets artifact creatures too, as well, by the way, right? Non-creature is not tacked on there either. So somebody sitting behind an Academy manufacturer, get it for free.
Nuke it. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Amazing.
I'll keep us in this train of artifact destruction for a second here, and then we can kind of dip away from it so we don't get too deep into the rabbit hole. Or perhaps the mole hole. This is Onslaugh's Rampage. You're talking about like an Academy manufacturer across the board. If you want to get rid of that plus everything else, you typically would think like, I'm going to play a Vandal Blast, which has its uses, of course. But Vandal Blast Overloaded cost 5 mana. Ansrog's Rampage also cost 5 mana, and the first line of text is destroy all artifacts you don't control. So it's a 5 mana sorcery. It's 3 red and a red. Sorcery, destroy all artifacts you don't control. Then exile the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of artifacts that were put into graveyards from the battlefield this turn. You may put a creature card exiled this way onto the battlefield. It gains haste. Return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. So this is awesome. This is actually just overloaded Vandal Blast, nukes all the artifacts that you don't control. So you're safe to still play all of your artifacts. Play Onsrog's Rampage, nuke everything else on the board. Let's say you got 10 artifacts. Like if you've got treasure, well, obviously, you know, people would sack their treasures in response to things. Clues, food, maps, whatever, soul rings, artifact lands, signets, all of the artifacts that are on the board. So the Rampage, it digs you X cards deep, but that creature does not need to be mana value X or less like you would see from a Genesis Wave or something. It's just the creature that's in that many cards. So if you are playing like an Ulamog or something in your, you know, mono red artifact ramp, I don't know, your best creature in there gets to just come into play, attack, and then back to your hand. So it kind of draws it for you. This is just super awesome. It was from Murders at Karlov Manor, which obviously was a very underplayed set, and I would not call it an underrated set. I would say it's properly rated and was also underplayed. So I just don't think a lot of people know about this. It was a random rare from that set.
What I like about this as well, check out that specific wording that's in there as well. It says, you destroy all artifacts you don't control and you exile the top X of the library, where X is the number of artifacts that were put into graveyards from the battlefield this turn. So it
works with treasures. If they sack the treasures in response, you still get it.
Not only does it work against your opponents if they sacrifice the treasures, if you have used treasures to cast this, it'll count your treasures that have gone to the graveyard that turn.
I completely missed that. That's awesome.
Right. What a stupid card to burn treasures on, right? Throw 5 treasures into this, then anything else that your opponents already had or are attempting to sacrifice in response to this card will still track all of it, and then you get that many cards off the top.
Yeah, what's the boar god from what's
Ilharg.
Yeah, this is like playing an Ilharg, where you're just going to get that many creatures, or, you know, a creature into play with haste that can attack and then go back to your hand, except instead of getting your, like, indestructible boar god, you're just nuking all of the artifacts in your opponent's board. Super
Amazing.
Good, super underplayed.
All right, so I promise our whole episode here is not all about cards that say that they destroy target artifacts. We do have some other really good picks.
Are you doing another one?
No, I'm not. I'm getting off the train. I in fact, as a matter of fact, I've got just a beautiful type of card here that just anytime you get the chance to play it, it's just a chef's kiss of perfection. I'm here for it. This is the redirect spell called Chef's Kiss. That was the joke.
Is it actually Chef's Kiss? Oh, sweet. I was like, I'm waiting.
That was the joke, ladies and gentlemen. Chef's Kiss from Modern Horizons 2 is 1 and double red for an instant. Gain control of target spell that targets only a single permanent or player. Copy it, then reselect the targets at random for the spell and the copy, and the new targets can't be you or permanents you control.
Excellent.
Amazing.
Chef's Kiss.
Chef's Kiss. Brilliant.
Oh, that's so sick.
All right. Let's break this down. So this type of spell is kind of what's known as sort of like a redirect kind of thing, whereas like you get the opportunity to switch up the target as long as it remains legal. These kind of redirect things, the target that it changes to, you still have to have something that is picked legally. So even with this one giving you the gaining control of the spell and copying it, the targets at random have to be selected from something that the spell still could originally target. But where these kind of things really, really shine is the fact that all it says is that it gains control of a spell. Obviously, the floor on something like this is gaining control and redirecting a copy of like a piece of removal or something like that. Your commander's about to go, or a very relevant creature is about to be thrown under the bus to a spot removal spell or something like that. You get to change that target around for, again, not only the original spell, but creating a copy of it and then changing the target of both of those to anything else your opponents have at random. But where this can really shine is especially against auras as well, because auras are spells that target. So if yours is being targeted with something like Song of the Dryads, or your opponent or your opponent is trying to do something stupid onto a creature of theirs, like any Voltron deck is trying to do a big dumb boost up a creature aura onto a creature of theirs, you get to snag that original spell and make a copy of it and send that off onto a different person as well.
Yeah, I think the idea of redirecting Song of the Dryads or Imprisoned in the Moon or something like that would permanently shut off your commander, that is obviously the best case scenario for this, because then you get to redirect the original, copy it, and redirect the copy somewhere else as well. So you're not, what I love about this is it's not a counterspell. Like, there's still value being put into play from what your opponents are doing, which I think people don't evaluate high enough in Commander, is like, I don't want to just shut off everything my opponent's doing, because in a pinch, they could be helping me stay alive against the person who we're both trying to take down. So Chef's Kiss is really good in that case, because you're not getting rid of this insane removal from the game. You're just making sure it doesn't touch your stuff and getting an additional copy of it on something else.
Precisely. There's also, I thought of there's a very, very weird corner case scenario that you could do on something like this. If you are sending spot removal to a creature an opponent controls, and they attempt to try to counterspell or protect their own creature from your own piece of removal, you could Chef Kiss your own piece of removal to reselect your target and make a copy to go at something else.
Yeah, that's awesome.
As well.
Or if you really want to get that copy, or sorry, if you really are you're playing removal, someone tries to counterspell it, and you're like, no, I really need that thing to hit, you can Chef's Kiss the counterspell. Because they can't target things of yours. So it just fizzles the original counterspell and fizzles the Chef's Kiss. So it's protection
That's a thing you can
for
do too.
Your own stuff.
I'll tell you, there is some very weird stuff that you can do with red redirect spells, and Chef's Kiss just happens to be one of my absolute favorites. Just sending somebody that perfection of being able to change up at random. What a way to throw the game off balance.
Absolutely. You might be chefing at a party. I'm trying to segue here. I'll stop my segue before I get too ahead of myself. I think something that people underestimate with red, they think that red doesn't have good options for ramp or for card advantage, and I would like to bring into the limelight Party Thrasher. This is 2 mana for a lizard wizard. It's a 1/4.
Yay!
It says non-creature spells you cast from exile have Convoke. Obviously that allows it to tap itself to pay for those. So in a way, it's kind of a ramp spell. But at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you may discard a card. If you do, exile the top 2 cards of your library, then choose one of them. You may play that card this turn. So it's not exactly card advantage, it's card selection, because it rummages. Like, you have to discard the card, but then you get the option of the top 2 cards of your library. It kind of fans the menu out for you. And then if you have a non-creature spell that goes in that direction, and you choose to cast something like your, what's it called? Release the Gremlins. You can then tap him and any other creatures you control for Convoke for those spells, which Convoke is unbelievably powerful. For those that don't know, it's each creature you tap while casting a non-creature spell from exile pays for 1 generic or 1 mana of that creature's color. So specifically in the case of Release the Gremlins, with an X spell, where if you have a ton of tokens out or a ton of creatures or whatever, you can just tap this and basically cast it for free. Convoke also doesn't require haste. It like gets around summoning sickness, because you're
like crew as well. Yeah,
exactly. So I think that Party Thrasher really only gets seen as a like cast from exile card, but man, that it doesn't require itself to tap to rummage, which alone is really powerful, because you get to keep up your 1/4 blocker for 2 mana. And then later on in the game, you just like, oh, I drew a land. Beginning of my pre-combat main phase, I'm going to discard this land, and I get the choice of the top 2 cards of my library. So this just digs you really deep to find good things late in the game.
Yeah, which if you absolutely need it, by the way, if you discard that card and of those ones that you exiled, one of those is a land, Party Thrasher does say that you can play that card this turn. So if you absolutely still just need that land drop to play, you can choose the land and just play that from exile.
100%.
Same difference.
He's particularly good with like madness cards because you discard it and then that gets sent from exile and then you cast the madness card from exile, which now has Convoke.
It's real cool. Yeah, I'm
Pretty
a big
neat.
fan of that. But I hear you saying, John, you haven't done a hear me out pick yet so far.
Ooh.
And as we reach our wrap up, and also, by the way, since you had just mentioned about red not having good ramp, okay?
I'm hearing you out, buddy.
Here we go. So we went at the top of the show kind of talking about red rituals, you know, and those are kind of all stapled onto like instants and sorceries and things like that. And we all have been here recently for the debacle of Dockside Extortionist being one of the best red accelerators.
Are you about to talk about Blank Goblin, John?
Blank Goblin?
John. All right, tell the people.
My friends, Dockside Extortionist at home. Here he is.
Cool. No, keep going.
Do you not agree, Joseph?
I just don't want to carry sticker sheets around with me.
But you
Tell the
should.
people what it is. Tell the people what it is, John.
Okay, my friends, from the set Unfinity, Blank Goblin, 2 and a red for a 2/2 Goblin Guest. That when this creature enters the battlefield, you may put a name sticker on it, and you add red for each unique vowel in that sticker. The vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and Y.
Sometimes Y.
Sometimes Y. Okay, so here's the science behind this here as well. We have the breakdown of the premier sticker sheets that you can tack along with you for this card, that anytime you have the opportunity to play it in your game, no matter what your random selection has been, Blank Goblin is always a guarantee exponential of value of mana. You will never have a miss opportunity on this card if you play the specific selection of stickers. Anybody unfamiliar with sort of like how this kind of thing works is that the sticker sheet thing from Unfinity, if you are going to be playing a card in your deck that uses the stickers, you bring with you to the game before you would start 10 of them that have a unique name to them. They have like their own like collector number in the bottom corner as well. Is specifically along like the names that are across the top of the sticker is kind of how you could search them on something like Scryfall or a search engine or something like that. So like as an example, if you wanted to like search for a sticker one like Ancestral Hot Dog Minotaur, you would just search the name that's on the sticker itself, and that's how you could pull it out of the like a search engine. When the match then begins, like this is like a pre-game action sort of thing. Of the 10 that you have brought with you, 3 of them are drawn out at random. This idea is supposed to help like give a little bit of like randomness to the card. So like as you would play it, like especially when people were playing limited for this as well, like you would have like a random selection of your stickers so that every game was wild and different. But we have the science facts here and the number checking on this here that we have a specific selection of 10 that if you bring those 10 stickers with you specifically for the use of Blank Goblin, no matter which 3 are drawn at random, any single one of them can be selected, barring any situations of like the Goblin being like reanimated and brought back into play continually, because stickers remain on the cards if they go to your graveyard or to exile and then come back into play. So this is kind of going off of the idea of like this is like the first instance of you playing Blank Goblin. The name sticker that you can apply to it, no matter which 3 from your pile are drawn at random, he will always give you a +1 mana boost to its casting cost, right? It casts for 3.
At minimum, it's net positive.
Yeah, like 9 times out of 10. And then of the 10 that are here as well, you have a few of the name stickers that give you the even higher exponential value on top of that. One of those is the sticker that comes with Delusionary. That is the one word that has all 6 of the vowels on it as well. So if you get lucky and draw that one, this is a 3-mana creature. This is a 3-mana creature, that then provides you back 6 red mana. That's into the realm of like Dockside Extortionist and Jessica's Will and Seething Song and stuff like that. On a body, on a body, right? Because like I said, you can send him to the graveyard. The sticker sheet stays if he's in the graveyard, but you could reanimate him, and then you can get another name sticker onto him. The name stickers don't compound. It's just for the first one that's applied to it when it enters the battlefield. But when you pick it up back into hand, that is when the sticker is then removed and sent back to the sheet, so that if the goblin would come back down again, that sticker that you had just applied previously is one of the ones that you can reselect to reapply it back to the goblin.
See, this is why I'm not messing around with stuff like this, because there's so many rules that you have to remember for how, like, why does the sticker come off when it goes back to hand, huh? Tell me why.
Just because of moving its zone back to your hand.
No,
but like
I know why. I don't need you to actually tell me. All right. I'm obviously seeing red after that pick.
All I'm saying is, yes, I know there's some convoluted shenanigans here involving the card itself and playing your stickers, but we have the science behind it now that you can guarantee have a blinkable creature that guarantees you positive mana as you would play it.
I love it. Yeah, I obviously joke about being like annoyed by this card. I'm only annoyed by stickers as a mechanic. It's a very, very good card. Shout out to Fish on our Discord who just pulled a Galaxy foil one of these recently. I got to see it in person and it was awesome.
Oh, sick, dude. I want to get a Galaxy one of these.
Yeah. Well, I'll end us with my slightly hear me out pick. It mostly is hear me out because the name is awesome. I've been playing a ton of Kimano faces Kakazon lately. This is a flip saga from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. And it's just a ton of value. It obviously was a haymaker in standard, and I think it deserves a place in commander as well. So Kimano faces Kakazon is it's a 1 mana saga. First thing it does is on the first chapter ability. So, as sagas enter, you put the first chapter on, and then after your draw step, you add a lore counter and do the ability. So the first lore ability is it deals 1 damage to each opponent and each planeswalker they control. This is particularly strong in my O'Hare Ashnell deck that turns that into 4 damage to everybody. The second lore ability is when you cast your next creature spell this turn, that creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. So it just beefs the power of a creature. And then the third ability exiles it, flips it into Etching of Kimano, which is a human shaman. It's a 2/2 with haste. And if a creature dealt damage this turn by a source you controlled would die, exile it instead. So this is like gets rid of death triggers. This is some graveyard hate. There's just so much value packed onto this 1 mana enchantment that I just have found myself wanting to play it a lot more often. I only play it in my O'Hare deck because it's really, really good in there. But even just like, man, I'm playing a red deck that's looking to deal a little bit of damage, make stuff a little bit bigger, and then have some graveyard hate on a hasty 2/2 on like turn 3. Not bad. That's why it's kind of a hear me out. But I mostly just want to say Kimano faces Kakazon a bunch of times in a game.
It's at least kind of cool that like when you go to drop it down, you get yourself like a 2-turn setup that, like, say if you're playing something with Constellation, it does come in as an enchantment creature on the
100%.
backside. Plus it's an enchantment on the front side, right? So like these like flip saga creatures are very, very cool. They're like a single card that lets you to have a double instance of Constellation or Eerie actually as well. That's a new enchantment theme as well, right? We've got new enchantment support from Duskmourn, so like you could be playing stuff like that.
Red doesn't have a ton of that, but I love Red's enchantments. So think if there's like a world where there's maybe like a Gruul Enchantress deck, or even like Jund Enchantress would be tight, dude. Where you just play like all the green Enchantress effects to draw your cards, and then red and black as your main enchantment colors to get to do like lock the board down and burn things, and it's so much fun.
That kind of sounds like you just want to play Bellow Bard of the Tangle stacks.
Yeah, I kind of do, actually. Yeah, I'm sort of there. You got me. Dang. Well, I think that takes us to the end of the episode. This was a really fun one. I obviously love playing Red, so getting to talk Red is something that I don't really need the prompt to do, but it was awesome to get to talk about some of these underrated picks.
Yeah, and we'd love to hear from you then about like what are your favorite things is that you like to play in your red decks. Like tell us about your favorite burn spells, your treasure creating stuff, your favorite support pieces, your favorite rituals. Go ahead and tell me why I'm dead wrong about blank goblin. You know, you all need to be playing more stickers.
True. Yeah.
I will die on the hill that Unfinity was actually good.
John is the biggest Unfinity enjoyer on the planet. I'm glad that if there's one lover of Infinity, it's you, John. Oh man. Well, wrapping us up, shout out once again to sponsor of the show, Heavy Play. Again, that's heavyplay.com/MTG Thoughtcast or MTG Thoughtcast at checkout for 10% off of your first order. You can join us on our Discord, linked down below, to get some Commander games in, start brewing some decks. Let us know in the comments down below what your favorite underrated red cards are. If you want to get in touch with us, you can find us on Blue Sky. That's our social media of choice. We have an official page, and then John and I each have a page, both linked here. And if you really want to get in touch with me, you can email me at mtgthoughtcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening. This has been the MTG Thoughtcast, and we will see you next week.